Hello and welcome to the Irish Farmers Journal Brussels Report. I'm joined today by Sean Kelly, MEP, to discuss the implications of the recent decision of the Parliament's Environment Committee and compare that with the position taken by the Agriculture Committee on the issue of greenhouse gas emissions and production. Sean, if I might ask you, in the context of the committee's decisions, which committee is likely to be the more influential with the wider Parliament?
Without a doubt, the Environmental Committee is more influential because it will have a bigger say in this, and also it has been taken on board by many of the other rapporteurs, and at this point in time it's not looking good for Ireland, and we are not one bit happy about it. I raised this today at group level, and I expressed my disquiet that this was discriminating against Ireland, and indeed generally against agricultural countries as opposed to industrial countries.
So the reality of life is that the greenhouse gas emissions that Ireland will have to comply with, the likelihood is that that bar is going to be set at the higher level, much higher level than we would have wanted to in the post-2020 situation.
That is correct, and the point I made very strongly, and in fairness to the chairman, Manfred Weber, he saw the point I was making and he asked the rapporteur to come and meet me, and we've made that point to them. But right now it's very difficult for Ireland because going back to when the targets were agreed by Ireland,
that was back in 2009, was it?
Yes, they were set at too high a level, and then of course we had the intervening economic recession.
Yes.
The only thing that kept us afloat during the economic recession was the agricultural sector, but now we're actually going to be expected to start at the level which was set for 2020 back then, and we're about 15% off that. So if you're starting at a level where you're 15% off, you're going to be paying catch up all the way. You're going to have to raise taxes or something to pay the fines or to meet the targets. And in reality, it's not doable economically.
It's simply unrealistic for Ireland to start off at where they should have got to in 2020, because there would be a strong view that the Irish position was set too high at the outset, that our target was much too high, given our dependence as a country on agriculture production, particularly livestock.
Yes, and a point I think that I have made, which is very valid, if you even look back over the last couple of years, the agricultural sector did make efforts to decarbonise through TAGUS research, to introducing various measures, but we did very little in terms of buildings, in terms of energy, and in terms especially of transport. So all those were more or less allowed to continue as normal,
right.
And yet we had made commitments, and very little was done to actually achieve those commitments. I would say other than agriculture, which made a genuine effort, but the others, as far as I can see, and not enough, not due to their own fault, but not enough was put into ensuring that we would have more non-carbon emitting transmissions in terms of transport, and the same in terms of energy efficiency in buildings, etc.
I suppose we might say it's a very Irish situation to say that we're starting off from the wrong place, which clearly we are in this situation. But given that that is where we are, what do you feel now? You're very pessimistic about how the vote will go in the wider Parliament next week. If we lose that vote, what can we do now then? Is it over to the Commission? Do we look to that to try and get it? Does someone we have to try and get raised at Council Ministers level? What exactly can we do to try and have a more realistic target for Ireland set for 2030, rather than the 2020, what 2020 should have been, because we cannot ignore the Paris Accord. We have to be part of that.
Yes, we have to be part of it, and nobody is saying we shouldn't be. And everybody wants to reach the target, but it's how you get there, as you said, and we are starting from the wrong place. So one thing which I discussed with the rapporteur, Pilar Usa, was maybe that we might look for a split vote to take our position into consideration, rather than being lumped as a generality across the European Union. Then it will have to go to Council, and hopefully there might be a little more practical common sense at Council level, but it does make it more difficult for us, because I think many of them took the overall view, and the bigger countries obviously will have a bigger say. A small country like Ireland is going to have a more difficult position, and especially when you consider, and I mentioned this very strongly, in light of Brexit. If Brexit happens, again we're going to be the country that's going to be most affected. So there's no point in giving us a double hit. So really we have to press the message home this is not going to help either the European Union in general, it's not going to help Ireland, and it's not going to help in terms of Brexit.
So are you suggesting then what's really needed here is a political solution in the bigger political sense, and why our best chance is probably that we get it transferred into a Council of Ministers situation where real politics can kick in, as opposed to perhaps the more philosophical view that perhaps Parliament sometimes will take on issues?
Yes, because some of the groups in Parliament are idealistic, philosophical, as you say, rather than actually practical. They like to have big targets, which sound very good, but they don't look at the practicalities. So definitely that is one area we have to look at. Obviously, at the end of the day, we will really have to try and get the message out there. Look at this objectively. Look at it from Ireland's point of view. Look at where we were 5 or 6 years ago, where we are now. Give us a break in this, because I do not want a free pass for Ireland. I am totally committed to COP21 and the Paris Agreement, but there has to be a sensible approach in how every country gets there, and every country is different. So you have to look at Ireland, at where we are, where we want to be, and where we have come from. And if those things are taken into consideration, hopefully some common sense can prevail at the end of the day.
We have a change of personnel in the government back home now as a result of the election of a new leader in your own party. Have you been communicating this issue yet, or will you be communicating it to the new Taoiseach-elect, as we expect?
I certainly will, and I'll be presenting it to the Parliamentary Party in general, and to everybody indeed, because I think this is the time when, whatever our background or whatever our political affinity is, we have to look at it. The green jersey has to prevail here, because it's not a question of trying to get a free pass, as I said, or trying to be clever or cute. It's a question of being practical. What is achievable without actually destroying the economy? If you destroy the economy, you destroy the pro-European sentiment. That's not good for the European Union. And they just have to stand back and look at it and say, what's the best thing to do? And we're really going to push that here.
We could expect that you would bring your parliamentary colleagues along with your thinking on this here. Do you feel that there's a consensus can be achieved amongst the total of the Irish MEPs that are in Brussels, because they come from quite a wide political spectrum?
I would hope so, but I intend to put that to the test.
And have you a forum for doing that in Brussels? Do the Irish MEPs meet collectively from time to time, or is it a more informal arrangement?
We met in terms of Brexit, and we developed our strategy in relation to Brexit because of the memorandum that was being developed. But I think maybe on this issue we might have to press that issue again, because at the end of the day, as you said, it's fine to have idealism, it's fine to have philosophy, but you must look at it how it affects the people on the ground, the jobs of the future, the whole economy, and obviously the environment. And I think we need to have a meeting of minds on this issue.
Sean Kelly, MEP, thank you very much for your views on this. No doubt it's an important subject, it's a critical subject from an Irish perspective. We in the Farmers Journal will be keeping on top of it, and I've no doubt that we'll revisit this issue very soon again in the future. Sean, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Philip. Thanks very much.